of June 11. Roll call, please.
Councilor Virtue?
Here.
Councilor Dunn?
Here.
Councilor Holland?
Here.
Mayor Woodruff?
Here.
Councilor Campbell?
Here.
A quorum is present.
Great, thank you. We have the minutes from May 14 and the May 26 Budget Committee meeting and the May 28 Special Council meeting to approve.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of all three meetings as submitted.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion, corrections? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comments. Does anyone wish to speak to the council? Please come forward and state your name and city of residence.
My name is Rick Booth, and I am here just to represent who I am. You've heard of my name, and I have filed a letter to join in the council. And if there was any questions, some people didn't know who I was, but I think on the council I know everybody except yourself. You're the only one I did not know.
Yeah.
Some people I know differently. Greg and I serve with the fire.
Right.
Greg Holland, you met me in the when we do Hands Across the Bridge. Mark, I'm on the 9T. So I didn't know if you had any questions for me. I just wanted to make sure you knew who I was. I'm going to be here short. I got a couple things I got to do today, but I did want to stop in and say hi. So any questions for me?
Thank you.
Oh,
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? See anybody there? Looks like they might want to talk to us. Okay, correspondence. We have a letter of introduction from the new Economic Development Alliance Director. I'm sure you've read that. And it's not clear, I think he said he wouldn't be here until after Memorial, what did he say, Memorial Day or Labor Day? A while anyway. Memorial Day. Well, we had that, didn't we?
yeah, he should be here by now.
Yeah, so have you heard from him, Dan, at all?
I have not. I
Okay.
would note that the letter does say May 12th.
Yeah, so-
Yeah,
So
so, yeah.
he may be in town, but it's still.
Okay, but we haven't, so hopefully he will come and introduce himself soon. And we do have,
Yes, I
Greg
contacted them.
will be going to that meeting, so that'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next, we have the public hearings. And that's on page 19. We'll open the public hearing on state revenue sharing. Do we have anyone wishing to comment? Not seeing anybody. Close the public hearing. Is this where we discuss the budget, or we just open and close the public hearing?
Just opening and closing.
Okay. So we'll also do the urban renewal, open the, well, first I'll do the city, opening the public hearing for the city. Any comments or anything? Anybody? You guys are citizens as well as just, operators back there. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And then I will recess City Council and go to the, open the Urban Renewal Agency public hearing. And again, ask for comments. Hearing none. We'll close the public hearing.
I believe
And,
the roll call was the same.
oh, yeah, right. Same thing for road district, road call, road call.
No.
So,
You still have some, the urban renewal.
So we'll
does
finish the
have to
whole thing.
Finish the urban
Okay.
renewal, yeah.
All right. So we've had the same roll call, citizen comments, agency comments or concerns. Hearing none. We have the minutes for February 13, 2020 and May 26, 2020, the Budget Committee hearing. Need a motion for that?
I move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
Any corrections or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So I guess now we open and shut the public hearing. Discussion items, consideration of the resolution, which do we have a number for that?
It will be resolution UR 2020-02.
UR 2020-02. Okay. So we need a motion for the resolution.
I make a motion, we approve urban renewal resolution number UR 12002, adopting the budget.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any comments or concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, and additional comments from the viewing audience, if there is any? No? Okay. And we will adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency. We will go to the road district. Again, roll call, same as usual. Citizens' comments and concerns? None. Member comments and concerns? None. The minutes from June 13, 2019 and May 26, 2020.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or corrections or? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And open the public hearing. Anyone wanting to comment? Close the public hearing. And new business, we have a consideration of resolution RD 2001, adopting the budget and making the appropriations. We need a motion.
Make a motion that we accept resolution RD 20-01.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any comments from the viewing public? None. All right, we will adjourn. Now do we do the, do we have a resolution for the council budget, or do we wait till after we've had the discussion later on the agenda?
I think probably at this point you can wait.
Okay, all right. So we're ready to go to the doll rate adjustment, correct? Did everybody get I think you sent it to everybody, didn't you, the backup stuff? Okay. So they are asking, they have two options. So what's your pleasure? We have option A and option B. Option A is to increase 1.275%, effective July 1, and option B is to postpone the rate increase, but I think then with the option to come back later in the year if needed.
Madam Mayor, if I might.
Yes.
I believe that what they were willing to do was essentially just wait a little while before doing this.
Okay, so when they make it up, if they come back to make it up, then are they going to want it
It's very, I mean.
for the whole
There's
period?
two ways to skin a cat.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you know,
right.
at the end of the day, they will probably come back and try to, you know, be within the margin that's allowed by the state statutes. And so whether you do it now or do it later, it will probably end up being a little bit of a larger increase potentially later, or is this increase now for a longer period of time?
So do we know what that average is for the average subscriber to their service?
It
The
wasn't-
1
It was in the documentation.
Yeah, let me see.
I personally pay for the carte blanche, they come pick up the can
Oh, yeah.
because of my steep driveway, and I think it was $1.60 for me. And that was on the higher end of those. There are a couple accounts that are paying $2 and something, but those tend to be the larger, either commercial accounts or significant large cans, bear cans, so.
Yeah, just the regular 35 gallon is going to go from $33.45 with the 1.28% increase, it'd be another 43 cents. So, like you say, up to possible $2 if you're a big user with lots of frills. So it's not a big deal, but it's another half a dollar.
I guess my fear is that if they come back, you know, if we're waiting for kind of economic recovery to happen and they come back and ask for $5 from somebody
Yeah.
for a month, I mean,
To make it up.
to make
Yeah.
up
Right.
5 or 6
Well,
months
they-
worth of,
They actually cannot do that. They
Yeah.
can get into that range, but according to them, even to get into it totally would be 3.3%.
Which is still a lot higher than,
Yeah, then, so it'd be about double the 1 point,
so right now, we know what their rate increase is,
right,
or we wait and we really don't know.
right. right.
Either way, I mean, the citizens are gonna have to pay a rate increase.
Yeah, we're going to pay it one way or the
And
other.
it's
so-
important to note that this is prescribed by state statute.
Right.
They have an operating margin that they have to,
Yeah, actually, that's county, I believe, but anyway.
is it county?
Yeah, it's county. It was negotiated.
It's negotiated through the solid waste.
Yeah. And I just sent Mark Salins, who's the solid waste director, whether there's been any conversation about revisiting that, because it's been good 10 years, I think, since we last, since we put that together. So, just a thought.
I'm liking, I wanna go toward the 1.28, because I just don't like the unknowns.
Okay, option A,
Yep.
is that a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Any other thought?
No, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Costs to raise, okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next is the findings of fact on the Vista View development.
And these are fundamentally what you expected, given that you saw these last time. There were 2 minor sentence additions added at the end that basically state that the project is feasible. But those were literally half sentence, 1 sentence additions.
Okay.
Basically establishing that, yes, the plan is a feasible option to continue.
So we need a motion.
I make a motion, I guess it would be accept the city council findings and conclusions.
Is there a second?
I would second it.
Any further comment?
That was that as amended by the minor addition.
As
Yeah.
amended, as amended, but to my.
Well, I assume those are in the packet, right?
Yeah, as presented.
Yeah, so. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next is the wastewater increase. This was discussed at the budget meeting and reflects that discussion for a 4.2% increase. Do we have a motion? Well, tell us your thought.
I don't have any thought right now, just nickel and diming, that's all.
Well, that's better than the bigger one. So what's your pleasure?
I move that we adopt resolution number
1260.
1260, establishing a water and wastewater rate increase for fiscal year
Reluctantly, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Now, when we discuss the meters, et cetera, are we hoping this will be it when we have that discussion, given some of the alternatives that you're working on?
I
not.
would say that this is the increase that keeps us balanced based on expenses for this next year.
Okay,
We do have a significant piece of that we can apply as a capital or one-time project. But that means that it can't be applied towards keeping costs down. Though it is the hope that by doing some of these projects, our costs will come down. It is important to note that based on the water plan that was developed for the next 20 years, we do have some significant capital projects upcoming.
right,
And those are in many ways unavoidable if people still want to get water.
seems to be sort of a necessity.
We will see probably some similar type costs coming in when the wastewater plant is completed as well. We are going to pursue every avenue and every option to do those in a way that minimizes the yearly increase on
Right.
water users' rates. And I think the best thing that I can say is that is the primary focus that we are moving forward with, is protecting the water system such that we do not have a catastrophic failure, but secondarily keeping the rates as low as possible.
Right. And this is what was in the budget, that it also included the water meters being changed out, et cetera, so,
So this
Yeah.
is in the budget with a significant amount of reserves spent in the capital, because it's in the capital portion
Right.
that the water meter project comes
Right.
out of. So this is in the overall budget for the operations of the water plant for the next year. The water meter project right now, I want to say, I don't want to mislead by saying it's fully funded. We
Right.
could use that capital outlay that we have and
Right.
do the water meter project. We are evaluating whether that is the best use of funds to get the biggest bang for the buck for the citizens right now.
and
That
that's
is our
still
big-
under discussion.
And
Right.
that is under discussion,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And will we be having that discussion before the July meeting, you think, or? that
We will be
won't?
having that discussion likely at the July meeting.
Okay.
Based on what revenue sources, what grant sources, and what other funding from outside might be available that we can leverage.
In terms.
Yes, in terms, that's, it is a little challenging right now because of COVID-19. So many federal programs are a little up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking how we can tie some of our projects to COVID-19 because the funding gets a little easier.
Exactly,
Madam Mayor,
yes.
kind of to bring this back to operating expenses, it's my
Yes.
understanding that in the region, we have close to the lowest or the lowest.
We certainly
Water
are
charges
still in the very
and wastewater.
reasonable, right. I don't know that we had that chart in the budget this time,
I
but,
don't think so. We did
Yeah.
take a look at it, and with the exception of some of the large producers that can really get an economy of scale,
Yeah.
yes, we do. And
Yeah.
those, it should be worth noting that those have some significant expenses there. Lincoln City is raising theirs, is my understanding. And Newport has a catastrophically large project that will be affecting their rate users very
Exactly.
shortly. So yes, we are very competitive in terms of water, including in the regional area here. I would say that when you combine wastewater, which some of our areas do not have,
Right.
we are down among the lowest.
lower, yeah.
You know, what puts us, when you compare apples to apples, what puts us higher is wastewaters combined. The southern group here doesn't have a wastewater plant that they're dealing with right now, and neither does Seal Rock. Both those areas, if they were to incorporate the same type of infrastructure, their rates would be competitively higher than
Yes.
ours. So I think we're doing quite well.
Okay, I think we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Next resolution must be 1027?
Well, okay, so this is resolution 1260, so the next one will be 1261.
Oh, 1261, okay. There you go. This is to declaring the city's election to receive state revenues. We have a motion?
I make a motion, we accept resolution 1261 declaring the city's election to receive state revenue.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, which way?
Arm wrestle.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then, okay, so then the next one will be 1262, right? So now this is the actual budget deliberation.
And this, I would remind everyone, this is the carry-in that we brought.
Yeah,
There was entirely my error, there was a presumption that we had paid the 80,000 for a grant from ODOT, and that we'd be receiving the 80,000. It turns out that that grant from ODOT was a direct pay to the contractor, and so not only did it never needed to be in the budget, we certainly didn't pay for it. So once I subtracted those numbers, we actually had a change in the available balance that went through by that $80,000, and that's reflected in the total adopted budget number and in the unappropriated funds for next year.
so before we adopt the budget, do we need to have the business license discussion because that number is in the budget?
I don't think you do because it
Okay.
doesn't matter, and I do have some
Okay.
suggestions
Okay.
on there, but that doesn't matter,
Okay,
one way or the other.
all right. So, and we got no more requests for anything from anyone?
No, we have some requests that we'll bring before the council at the certain funding times, but
Okay.
they are incorporated. We have the funds within the budget to be able
take
to
care of
address
it.
those.
Okay. So, we then need a motion to adopt the budget for 2021, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing the tax.
I move that we adopt it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, that does bring us to the business license discussion.
So I first want to start out with an apology on some of the confusion with the business license pieces. We've looked at it, the direction from the council wasn't entirely clear, and we jumped to an interpretation which might have not been accurately reflected. At the same token, our city recorder did discover in the course of evaluation that we actually can't do by resolution some of the things that we had discussed. And so we actually need to, if we adjust the date, need to bring it back through an ordinance change. And if we adjust the amount, we can do that by resolution.
Okay.
Further, one of the things that has come up is that we are going to be allocated a certain amount of money by the state through a regional allocation to cities, counties, and special districts as part of the CARES fund. In that, we do have to account for how we use those dollars towards different projects related to COVID-19.
Right.
So there is a possibility that didn't exist the last time we discussed this, where we could actually, through resolution, essentially, the council could pay these fees for the business owners as part of the COVID-19 relief, and then seek remedy to those funds, essentially making the council whole, and essentially the net effect would be waiving the fees for the users.
So do we know for sure that that is an allowable expense?
Through all the research that I can tell right now, yes, it is an
Okay.
allowable expense. However, I will say that they issued the PPP loans for weeks without having the full guidance from the state or from the feds. I cannot guarantee it, but I believe through everything I've looked at it,
So
it
far, yeah.
believes to be an allowable expense.
And that amount, what is the business license fee? 40?
Do you want the estimated cumulative?
No, I
total?
mean per business.
The base license fee is $40.
Okay.
And then businesses pay varying amounts depending on the number of employees, or
Okay.
the number of gaming machines, or the number of apartments and rooms. There's
So
some-
like what would be the top range, for instance?
I believe the most expensive business license we have is $200.
Okay. And there's probably not a lot of those.
One.
That was a good guess.
Do you know what the total is?
It's around $12,000.
12,000.
And some change.
So I think some of our thinking was we would just delay the billing, which obviously the date is an issue. But now there's also this amount that could either pick up that quarter that we would be writing off if we just billed them for 3/4, or we could do the whole thing. So we have some options. What are your thoughts?
So we have the ability to prorate by resolution.
You have the
Yes.
ability
We have to have an ordinance if we want to,
change the date.
Yeah. Yeah.
and so the proration would be about 3K if it were one
Right.
quarter.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, we could underwrite 3K or 12K.
Or 6K
Or-
or 9. I mean,
Yeah,
you
right.
have
Or
the
some
ability
other
to
number,
prorate
right.
or
Right.
whatever the council so wishes.
Can we review it? We prorate for the first quarter from July through August 1st, come back, see how situation changes. If
The
we can do
funds-
it by resolution,
When do the
Then
funds
we-
So
have
the
to
funds
be
need to
closed?
be, the funds need to be expended by December.
Okay, so we do have,
So that there's a little time there. One of the biggest challenges we have, and this is the issue that staff has brought back to me,
Okay.
is people are anxious to get their business licenses just renewed.
okay.
And so there is some staff time and there is some,
Yes.
basically we send out the bills now. We were actually supposed to have sent them out about a month
Right.
ago.
Right.
But we weren't really gonna do that when everything was still closed.
Right.
There is some staff time, to do all of these different processes for about the 300 different licenses.
Right.
So as we kind of process through these, the more often we make a change, the more staff time, the more it becomes kind of a zero-sum game where we spent that much in staff to do the end result action. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and especially if we're sending out mailings or anything else, we would kind of like, in an ideal world, we would do it once.
Right.
With whatever the
Once
council
and done,
says.
right.
the other part of the discussion was, and correct me if I'm mistaken, that we would bill and then forgive any penalty for people that were
Yeah,
late.
Right. For
Right?
sure, because I think we're doing that already on water and
so we're doing
Have we
sewer,
that.
aren't we?
have we had many of the businesses either, I wouldn't say complain is the right word, but would show some concern that it's a burden to them?
I have not heard any business indicate it's a burden at all. I've had a couple state that, well, why would we do a business license when we can't operate?
Right.
But that
I
is
got
kind
that
of,
too.
yeah, that's just
But-
colloquially, just,
Yeah.
Right.
frustration in general with government.
But most of us that are in business have that as part of our routine, know it's coming. pay
I
the
think
thing.
Rita has relayed that several businesses have basically just said, oh,
Aren't we
I haven't
due?
got my bill yet. Why haven't I got my bill yet? So, it is not
We're
a
working
huge,
on
it is not a huge, I mean, it is not a huge amount. One of the things that we as the city has really struggled with is how we can help different businesses. And one of the thoughts was, okay, if we could delay, as the council was indicating, that might help. If there was no revenue coming in, businesses delay a bit. The other thought was, okay, well, if we could forgive either a portion or all of it, that might help. But again, I don't want to say trivial amount, because when you're a business that hasn't operated for 2.5 months,
Right.
nothing is trivial.
Correct. I don't look at any of my bills as trivial, but, but speaking for myself, I mean, it's not gonna put me out not to just be billed and pay it. And if we don't have that many that are in trouble, I would suggest that we just go on business as normal versus going through this procedure. My other thought would be to review it, forgive a quarter and then review it in October and see if it's affecting people. It may be affecting such a small amount that we can deal with them on a personal one-to-one case.
Well, and if we're not doing anything about late fees, then we could just
Yeah.
pay it, I mean, send it out
Right.
there.
I send it
Whenever
out.
they pay, they pay.
Yeah.
So if we were to do the proration that we talked about at our last meeting, or whenever that was, so that amount, if that's the course we had already kind of set forward, that would be the 3,000, we could apply for 3,000?
We could certainly do that, yes.
To me, it seems like, that's what I would be in favor of doing, since we kind of already set that as a course, is,
Well, actually, there was confusion
There was
about what
tremendous
course we
confusion.
sent.
We haven't set that as a
Yeah.
course, and I
Because-
understand it's a goodwill
Yeah,
gesture.
Yeah,
And it's, again, it's, that $3,000 that we use, or for whatever, however that part of the budget operates under, is bigger for us than somebody who's not able to pay $40. And so I would like to go, let's just bill it, and if it becomes a problem for people, that we deal with them on an individual basis, let them know that there's no fees or fines, and encourage them to make it as, make it up as best they can at their ability. And I know it's different for a single operator, some guy making t-shirts off to the side hasn't been able to make his t-shirts, versus me, who's been able to be open most of the time. But
so anything
I
that's
don't
not paid, we could apply for reimbursement.
that's, yeah.
so what about?
So the only danger is that the funds cannot be used to make up lost revenue.
Ah,
So if we were doing it at the beginning as a
Gesture.
gesture, that is different than if we were doing it because we only got 86% of the revenue in. And that is an important distinction that I looked at
Yeah, it
in
is.
whether we could do it or not.
yeah.
So what if we just dropped the base rate and forgave everybody $40, but then the larger businesses pay whatever the balance is, the 160 for the largest?
But how many are just basic?
Almost everybody.
About 90%.
About
Yeah.
90%.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're saying this is a COVID expense, because we're looking at our small businesses and saying,
Right.
it's a small remedy for each of them, but especially for the small operators, it might be significant. And
But if we're gonna go that far, it seems like we're better just to do the whole,
Yeah,
the whole.
I'm a little concerned about that simply because we have a lot of them
Just-
that are paying $42.50 or $45. So then we'd be sending out a bill for $2.50 for their business.
And the cost for you to process
Yeah,
every
Yeah.
$2.
As we talked about just today,
Yeah.
we really don't want to process checks for $2.80.
Exactly.
There's a cost to doing business, and most businesses recognize that, and a business license is pretty standard across the board. You know,
I do know that there are some other communities that have taken the step of waiving business licenses.
yeah.
Well, it's not a huge deal, but we do need to make a decision.
And from a staff perspective, the only thing that we'd ask is it's, for us, a one and done.
A one
Because
and
there
done,
is,
yeah,
there is
I agree.
a non-trivial amount of work that goes
I
into
agree.
doing
Yeah.
the licensing.
I would entertain a motion to do something.
I would make a motion that we waive, is that, I don't know, I want to
That the
make sure.
city cover, if that's
That
the
the
correct-
city covers the cost of business license for fiscal year 2021.
All of it?
Yes,
All 12 months?
yes.
Is there a second?
It's all coming out of the CARES money, right? So it's not really out of our,
Hopefully.
I believe that
Yeah.
to be true.
you're 90%,
I am fairly confident, yes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm okay with the first quarter, but giving up 12K is tough on me, but
what else can we use the money on? Do we have other things we could use the CARES money? I mean, I know it's gotta be Pacific.
There are
you know,
lots of things to use. I mean, at the end of the day, we're gonna end up paying quite a bit just to clean the bathrooms on a regular basis so that we can open the bathrooms back up. There are
You know-
always going to be expenses.
it's nice to be benevolent, but sometimes you have to look at things as a business, and 12K is a fair amount of money. And I concede the first quarter. I mean, I was going in that direction anyway, but for the entire year, I think is a little draconian.
Well, the other big picture thing is, where is all this money that's being handed out coming from, and where is it gonna end up coming from? So, yeah, we
It's-
can get it back, but it's
It's-
gonna be paid somewhere.
It's one of those adages of spending other people's money.
Exactly.
That 12,000 that we may receive, and it very well could be, may be hurting somebody else down the road that we don't even know about. It's in more desperate shape than the $40 that we get from our businesses.
I think we could engage in some pretty intense discussion
Yes, we could.
about the $2 trillion bailout and the corporations that receive the money.
Exactly.
Well, and on the other hand, I think the way they're going with this CARES 2 thing that fund we're talking about is it's gonna be put in our account, and either we're gonna spend it or it goes, I don't know where it goes away, I guess. What happens if we don't come up with 50,000 or whatever it is they're gonna handle?
I am fairly confident that if given the direction, I will bring you expenses
Okay,
for those monies that are necessary to run our facilities that people have indicated that are important to them, such as our library and our community center. We are going to have expenses we're having expenses just to reopen City Hall.
Right.
I know that our library has significant expenses to operate, once this new, once we've hit
Paradigm.
phase 2
Yeah.
and the new paradigm of social distancing and cleaning comes into play. That is going to be an across-the-board change for us, and there are going to be expenses related to that.
so in that sense, say we got 50,000, we have all these other expenses, should we use 12,000 of it for this seemingly small contribution? I guess I put that out to council as a question. 'Cause
So I guess the question for the city manager is, if we pass on this completely, let's say we did 0 on the business license. You're saying you could find 50,000 worth of COVID expenses?
If we only have 50,000, by the time this is all said and done, if we only have $50,000 in COVID expenses, I'll be surprised.
So we're talking the next 7 months.
So just ballpark figures, we'll probably be spending $30 a day just to open and operate a bathroom in cleaning. And that's labor, not supplies. So figure add another maybe $5 in supplies, you're looking at almost $1,000 a bathroom. We have 2 bathrooms, one up at the skate park, one down at the Wayside. Right there, that's.
And the interpretive center, if it
Well, I
becomes
wasn't gonna
ours.
go there yet, but, so that's roughly $24,000 just to
Just
have
that,
those 2
yeah.
bathrooms open.
Yeah.
That doesn't talk about the community center, that doesn't talk about the potential of the interpretive center. There are costs that I just can't fully grasp just yet in terms of how we're gonna do business.
Right.
So, to put it another way, the business license fee is the equivalent of operating a bathroom for the next year.
There you go. I think to me, that's going to make the difference in my vote. I think there's more important things that we're going to have to be paying for way beyond
Would you-
12,000 out of the
Would
city
you
budget.
consider amending it to the first quarter?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have an
I
amendment.
could live with that.
Okay.
Okay, it's amended.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So I would just like to get very specific clarification, if you don't mind,
that's
that we
fine.
are billing
25%.
25% off,
Yeah,
but we're billing now.
yeah, but we're billing now.
Okay,
But
thank
we're
you.
not laying on anybody about when they're gonna pay.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So, we can bring back a resolution for the fee change and an ordinance for the late fees.
Okay,
Okay.
we need an
Because we
ordinance
have
for
to-
the late
We
fees.
have to, if you're changing or waiving the penalties,
Okay.
those are specific in the ordinance.
So did we do that for water and sewer bills? I don't remember that we did.
They're set
amendments.
up differently.
Okay,
It's
so
set
it's
up
just set up differently, okay.
That was thankfully
was-
Rita, in her discovery of this, she's like,
Okay.
these are pretty specifically,
Yeah,
Okay.
the ordinance, when it comes to the due date, which is July 1st.
Okay,
because I
should-
have to get those notices out
Should we have
this week.
a date specific then to late fees are waived until?
Well, even
Certain date?
if you want to, but even so, it would still have to come back in the form of an ordinance.
I got you. So the
So-
only way we can not have an ordinance then is, and do it by resolution, is just
Is
to
if
say
you're
that
just
we're gonna
doing
waive
fees,
25%
If you,
and no late fees.
no, you can't do that.
Can't do that. We can just say 25% discount.
You can do, you're setting the fee at 75% of what it normally is.
Okay.
Basically.
Gotcha.
By
Resolution.
resolution.
By
Okay.
resolution. Okay.
But the due date is still July 1st, and the penalty dates are still, August and September. So we would have to come back with a resolution to change those dates, an ordinance to change those dates.
So could we change that down the line, as long as, so we can get the billing out
so
at
we
the
are,
discounted rate?
yeah, so we were planning on bringing back some fundamental changes to that so
Okay.
that this didn't happen again.
Okay.
Right.
And we could bring that to you at, say, the August meeting
Okay,
and allow us to address late fees.
I have more.
Or would we need to do it in July?
July.
July, so we'd bring it to the July
Okay.
meeting so that we could address the late fees.
so that will allow you to go ahead, send out the bills at the discounted rate.
At the discounted
And then
rate,
we'll
due
deal
July
with
1st.
the ordinance later.
Yeah, due
Okay.
July 1st,
Okay.
because that's what the ordinance says.
Okay,
We can change the penalties and the due date if you want to, at the July meeting and still be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have faith in our people that they will recognize the goodwill gesture and pay their bill.
And we will bring you language in July
Okay.
that prevents us from having to go
Right.
through this challenge again.
Ever
We will
again.
change the ordinance to allow you latitude with the due dates and so on,
Okay,
so we don't run into this again.
all right. I think we still have a motion to vote on, right? We had, did
No,
we?
I think-
or did
No, we
do it?
voted on that.
Okay, we're done, all
Now we
right.
need to address the resolution as to language, right? No?
Do we need a motion to bill at the discounted rate?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead and
Yeah.
do
All
that.
right. So we already.
Oh, actually, you did that. No,
We
you
did.
did, you
We
did
agreed,
that.
yeah, we
Okay.
agreed to underwrite the quarter, so
All
does
right.
that include, okay,
Yeah,
then we're good,
yeah, you've already done that.
All right.
We'll bring back the resolution to memorialize the decision.
okay,
but it's
we're
not-
good. Any other issues? We have council comments later, so I'll just pass over that. Committee reports, I had in your packet the various minutes from the Parks Committee. And looks like we're at staff reports.
Okay, I actually mentioned it a little bit earlier today. The city hall will reopen once we do a little bit of work up here, where you're gonna come in. The sheriff's office is now moved. They're the first door to your left. That was
So
our
they
old
are
conference
moved?
room. They have
Okay.
moved.
Okay,
We'll be moving their parking up front as well,
Okay.
and you'll notice that staff are now parking in the back.
Okay.
We'll be over off to the side, so there's a little bit more parking directly here.
do you want us to park back there too?
No.
Okay,
No, it's just, we were just trying to do it so
Yeah.
that we had, so that A, if you were looking to see if any of us were here, you could find us relatively easy.
Yeah.
But B, that the sheriff's office vehicles were more visible, and that was one of the key pieces. As part of the requirements for the interpretive center, I did submit the letter stating that yes, we were interested. There is a process that we'll go through, and it is presumed that we will be the only people interested, but I cannot guarantee that. They did very specifically ask that if ODOT or if Select Strive showed up with $350,000, what would we do? And I said, well, we would look to partner with the Select Strive in their new building.
exactly. We would love to
And
have
they, and
a
they ran
present-
right over.
I personally
No,
would
I don't-
love, I would love to have a Select's present
Yes.
ride
Yes.
in town.
Absolutely.
I would welcome that, actually.
We had a mural painted for them.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do have, we have signed the IT contract with Orcotech. So that should allow us to expand services and keep costs controlled for the next year. And we'll evaluate that next year and I'll report during the course of the year how that is going.
So Public Works had their own because they hadn't been happy with Orcatech?
There have been
or-
challenges in the past
Okay.
with Orcotech and the costs.
So it was
and
mainly a cost issue?
It was a cost issue
Okay.
both with the library and with Public
Okay,
Works.
but everybody's happy now?
Mainly because we were able to get the costs
Well, right,
such that they're not
right.
going to go up.
Yeah, I just thought maybe there were other reasons beside cost that they liked another system better, but,
There are some
Yeah.
challenges that we're going
Okay.
to work through, and we look
Okay.
forward to working with the vendor and making sure that everybody's happy.
okay.
The water tank settlement has been signed. I keep asking. All the paperwork has been signed and executed. They have till July 2nd to perform. So we may not see the funds for another few weeks. I have inquired when we might see them more specifically, and we are waiting.
So we're not at any place where somebody can say, no, we're not gonna pay?
Right now, everything has been signed and executed.
Okay.
So if they were to do that, it would be in default.
Okay.
And
Good,
we'd be back to a much different lawsuit at that point.
okay.
We are starting to review process policies and procedures here at the city. That was some of what we talked about when I was originally hired. We're going through the staff handbook. We're going through some of our process that we do things. And we'll be bringing back what's appropriate to bring to you all here in the future. I'm going to be meeting with all the staff here in a couple weeks sit down and talk about some of the issues. A lot of it will be providing better information to the staff so that the process is clear, and just refining things that get in the way. A big one that you should all know about is in the past, when staff have done work for different departments, they indicate their hour, they break down their hours by department. We, through the budget that you've just passed, have essentially eliminated that. So now staff will spend less time on accounting for how they spent their day and more time actually doing the work and then just turning in a timesheet. So I think that will be beneficial, and I'm hoping it will be well received. Let's see. Insurance company. We did have an in-depth discussion with the insurance company regarding personal property stored in buildings. Obviously, we've had that issue in the past, and we had some hurt feelings when we asked people to move it so that we could examine the building space and do some painting, etc., potentially. We don't have a good mechanism. There is not a good mechanism for storing private party property in our public buildings. We looked at it. The staff that work there's some acceptable loss of staff personal property, pictures of my daughter or this or that. But at the end of the day, if we have user groups that are storing significant property, we don't have coverage. They can do a subjugation of coverage where they bring in and provide their own insurance to be able to do that. And there's a process that we can follow there. It is not trivial for them to do that in some ways because they basically have to say that we have no responsibility, and other insurance companies have to agree to that. That is generally not all that, it's not uncommon, but it's not readily, basically we'd have to wash our hands if somebody broke in and stole somebody's stuff. We'd say that's
Not our
fine, but
problem.
you can't come to our insurance company with that claim.
So is because it's commercial or government or whatever the distinction is versus because renters can get insurance, for instance, for
Yes.
their possessions.
Because they're not renters per se, they are users of a service. It was a complicated, 5.5 paragraphs of legalese that basically said there was really no good way of doing this.
So even waiving, because we talked about having them waive.
So the waiver that I was talking about was
Yeah.
the waiver of liability.
Yeah.
It becomes a subjugation of indemnity. There was a long term that
Okay.
described what they needed to do, and they needed to fill out a form, describe what they had, have their insurance company sign off on it, and then have our insurance company sign off on it and legal to get it covered. And that basically meant that those belongings that they had were what they expected to be there. We knew what the value was, and we had no responsibility if the building burnt down to them whatsoever, or theft or damage or anything else.
But you're saying that process is just not really
It's
practical.
It's challenging for the groups because they need to go through that process with their insurance companies, provide a separate rider, provide proof of that rider, and then their insurance companies essentially have to acknowledge that we have zero liability whatsoever. It was, and again, I'm not an insurance expert, but at the end of the day, the advice from our insurance expert
Yeah.
was, if you can just avoid it, it's best
Don't
to
do
avoid
it.
it.
So, in my past life, I was a minister, and we, obviously not here, we use municipal buildings. We always had to have a trailer. Anything, sound
That was
system,
theirs,
a
okay.
podium, anything had to be removed. For this very reason, we could not get insurance.
So we're just kind of behind
Yeah.
in
Or
requiring.
you've been generous in letting
Yeah.
people
Yeah, exactly.
use
And
storage
it's
spaces.
certainly not I fundamentally don't have any,
Yeah.
overall
Yeah.
problem with it.
Yeah.
I just don't have an easy mechanism to give somebody a
Fix
key
it.
and say, oh yeah, sure, that's your closet.
Right.
Yeah, I shared that same story with Dan regards the golf course, because I used to store people's golf carts up there, and my insurance company finally said, stop.
Yeah. Same kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he thinks his cart's worth $5,000. The insurance says, no, it's only worth $1,000. You know?
And then he comes
Where do
after you.
Yeah, exactly. He says, just better off,
Don't do it.
don't do it, you know.
So are either of the groups that we temporarily vacated?
I have.
We're not sure
I
they're
have sent
coming back.
information to them. The only response that I got to the information that I sent to them about what our plans were and opening and the process was, thanks. That was one
Right.
word, there was no discussion, there's been no contact. I fully intend on reaching out to both group, in fact, all groups, once we're at the point where we look like we're gonna open the community center and start to schedule, how they can reuse that space if they so choose. And I'll report back then if there's any further discussion.
Sounds good.
And then the last piece that I have for you today is code enforcement. You just approved a budget that had a potential to hire code enforcement. I would like your permission to go and do so for this next fiscal year.
And that involves TCB, is that?
Well,
Or
so because the
perhaps-
contract is at a certain point, I am
Okay.
going to do basically a process.
Okay.
And I expect that TCB will be the only bidder, but I cannot guarantee that.
Okay.
But
So it's going out for bid.
I needed to
Okay.
go through the full contracting process.
So do we know the sheriff's office is not interested?
They very well might as well. I don't think they'll be able to come in at the cost that we can afford. That's at the end of the day.
Well,
And I don't know if they're up to speed.
Yeah.
They said they were a while ago, but they've had some pretty significant cutbacks, and they've got kind of a hiring freeze right now. So I don't know that they're in a position to do it right now.
but
And
they
that
will
security
be.
company's done these before, or?
So TCB right now is doing it in Yahats in Toledo, and the person who's doing it in Yahats actually reached out and said, hey, how can we help? I expect that they are going to be the ones who come in and say, okay, we're ready to go. That would be my sincere hope. We've also gotten several comments from members of the community who picked up on a comment on social media, incredibly supportive of us instituting code enforcement.
Yes,
So,
plus me.
plus our mayor.
Well, and I mean, we did hire Jimmy as an employee, and half of his time is being spent, on parks and in the appearance of our city. And there's a marked difference already just in, weeds
Yep.
not growing so rampantly all over the place. It looks like we actually live here and care about the place. So I'm very pleased. And please tell Jimmy, as I do every time I see him. Thanks very much. So we will be going out for process, and that's good. Yeah.
If you'll allow me to, yes, I was kind of hoping there'd be a motion and a.
Do we need a
direct-
motion since
I
it's in the
wouldn't mind
budget?
that because it's
Okay, all right. I would make the motion to allow you to please go out for bids on code enforcement 2 days a week.
Second.
You second, okay.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
Excellent, thank you.
So we don't have the sheriff here, but the next thing.
Well,
Oh,
just-
actually, we have some, is
Do
there?
either of you have anything that you want to say? Anything?
We're just going on as usual, delivering books through the bank and about 30, average about 30 days. So, and our summer reading program's going on through there too.
Great.
I will say Scott, Reed, and I had a conversation this morning, and Mike. There are some water issues that we're working on right now in terms of loss. We will likely be moving forward. As part of the meter project, you heard me talk about some leak detection.
Right.
We will likely be jumping ahead with some leak detection sooner rather than later in terms of needing to get it done as quickly as possible. And I'll inform you weekly as to what's
Okay.
going on there, but.
Does that involve equipment or?
Yeah, it involves a sensor that we install
Okay, a sensor.
around the community
Okay.
in various places that allows us to basically see where water is
Okay.
leaking. It's a very complicated technical thing that I've read like 5 times. I kind of get how they do it, but I'm not entirely sure. But I'll send you the website so you can take a look.
That's fine, I'll rely on your explanation.
Well, it's,
According to our evaluation of the system today over the last 3 months, we're losing right about half of what we're making.
Oh, ouch. This is after all our work on I, cut down and,
The ionized wastewater,
well, right,
So-
but,
but we don't know if there's a big leak somewhere.
Okay.
The guys are actually out, that we pulled everybody off this morning and they're just searching. So
wow.
Interesting.
hopefully we find a big leak. We were already really super high anyway. We weren't that high, but we thought it was a COVID issue. Since then, we looked at billing data and realized it's not a
Wow.
COVID increase. It's quite literally, we're just losing.
Well, that should help the budget.
Hopefully we find it.
Find
Yes.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
But we talked again this morning about, we may have to, if we can't find it, that's enough water that we're gonna have to look at other avenues to go find that.
including potentially just hiring a leak detection process and
Yeah.
just having it done
Yeah.
once. But I'm really hoping that we're able to do maybe have them come down and install some gear and give us a better sense of where it is faster. Because I like the long-term solution of being able to do a leak detection every morning, just get a report and the guys be able to address it, simply because we do have so many blowouts. Because of ground shifting, because of age of pipes and equipment, or just, it's the coast,
Wow.
Do we know when the library can be staged? That's what, phase 2, right?
Yeah, the library plan right now is phase 2.
Right.
I didn't realize there were so many people, just my customers, I do a lot of elderly. I didn't know there were so many people using the internet because they don't have internet at the home. And so they've been asking me, why don't they put an antenna up so we could park at the community center in front of the library and just be in our cars and read?
They can't.
Well, they said they couldn't,
Wi-Fi
it's very, I guess, poor signal. So is there a way we can,
boost the signal.
like,
I can do that.
put a little tin up
I'll
top?
talk to Architect, we'll find a way to do that.
Yeah, because they're all, we'd love to just sit in the parking lot and just read. And I was like, I didn't know people.
Might try to do that at the community center parking lot too.
Yeah, because
Just
there's
be
lots of
able to-
parking
That-
space.
We have to do some Wi-Fi changing. That Wi-Fi is locked down because of it's connected to the automatic lock. So we've had some issues with neighbors using it.
Yeah, no, we can,
TV.
we can figure it out. We can figure it out.
Okay. Good point.
That's something I know how to do really well. So.
So are there any additional public comments from the viewing audience? No. Okay. That is on our agenda. Council comments and concerns.
The porta-john at the skate park is still not moved and still disgusting.
You want to talk?
We have, so that porta potty was actually donated
Right.
by a porta potty company back when we built the skate park. It's still there. We actually contacted him. He hasn't picked it up yet. We recontacted him because we have the bathroom. It was put there temporarily
Right,
while we were
right.
building the bathroom. We have the bathroom now. So we recontacted him. If he doesn't, we're just going to back it out and remove it until we figure out what to do.
Excellent.
Kind of hoping he would just show up and take it away, but that hasn't happened, unfortunately.
And then harm reduction. Brought
Right.
up before, the county public health wants to have a harm reduction presence in Waldport. So wondering, have you had any success getting a hold of Cedar?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I think we were going to invite them for August. I
Yeah.
think that was the target
Yeah,
timeframe.
August
Okay.
or September,
So
yeah.
I think I've left a message or two, but I haven't heard anything back, but I'll follow up again.
Greg, anything for?
Nope. Nothing for me.
Scott and I met up at the golf course about that road situation, and not wanting to go over your head in any manner, another topic came up about the sign. And perhaps, I've got some tenants now on that road of mine, and it is, we have Green Drive, Green Circle, and ours is Green Lane, but UPS and FedEx haven't figured it out yet. And so, without,
We need a road
without
sign.
directing Scott, I asked.
I will sit down with Scott and figure out some street signs for you.
But the other thing too is now that I'm starting to get a little more traffic, I do have a crosswalk for my golfers to go across that road, and he thought that perhaps that would be a good place to try that new torch thing. So anyway.
I was gonna look at, the rules. I think that, is for council as well. Now we have houses being added on Green Lane, and the golf course has a pedestrian crossing as well as golf course carts, on Green Lane. So now that there's a higher house, I think that qualifies to be a crosswalk, because of the traffic that actually crosses it. So I think that's something we should probably look at, adding there to further safety of those golfers. Partly because they've been used to not having that traffic, so a lot of our citizens that utilize the golf course aren't used to having those cars, so it's hard to retrain them if you start looking.
We have a lot of people that just drive up to the cul-de-sac and walk their dogs.
Yeah.
You know? They're not even part of the deal, but they are. So,
Going back to Mark, since you made that comment, I wanted to open my thing back up. We have a drainage problem with the water. Are we working on, a lot of neighbors, I knew it was in front of my house flooding because the road just kind of seeps. And then I noticed right at the corner where the cul-de-sac, it just
seeps.
goes, and when it gets icy, it's just nothing but a sheet of ice. Well, I was down on, was it Fairway Circle, and one of the people said, can you guys do anything about my yard flooding? They said it goes and it comes in front of my house and it just puddles.
that water seeps up through the road.
Right. And I'm like, is there a way we could, something we can do or anything to?
The same thing happens on Range Drive right between my house and Rick's house, and we've always been told it just,
It does.
comes up, but
Maybe
now
I'm
with 50%
hearing where the
water,
the
yeah.
leaks are.
Well,
The range drive one, we're actually getting ready to add a
Well, I know you're,
but,
but that's for the other side, isn't it?
It
That's
is,
not for the pavement.
Part of the reason it actually gets so bad right there is that if you notice, it follows a trench. So I think after they built the road, years later, they trenched in utilities up through there.
Okay.
And when you trench in utilities, it's just a backflow of gravel, which is more permeable. So I think that water tracks that trench to the
Okay.
bottom. It would track down there anyway, but it appears it looks like a leak because of the way it tracks. Like, yeah, it's just
And
a
like,
hole.
and like that, it ices over.
Well, and I didn't really realize it, and I just happened to be there when it was raining, and sure enough, I don't know if it's clogged, but the water just comes down and it comes out underneath his driveway and it just stopped. It just puddles and you can see where it's flooding. So I don't know, but he's all, I've complained about this forever and it's just like a pool out here.
Who's that now?
The guy literally right on the corner. He's putting a new fence up around his house, right on the golf course there.
Right next to you?
No,
Oh, okay.
it's on Fairway Circle.
Oh, okay.
On Fairway Circle. Huh.
We'll go take a look.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go take a look.
But yeah,
If there's
I
something.
thought it was a minor thing, but now I'm just starting to think, well, maybe it's some kind of a drainage issue. So,
Yeah, water goes downhill.
yeah.
Okay. I think that does for council comments and concerns. We have an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the government.